From the misty Pacific coast to the rugged Cascade Mountains and beyond to the high desert in the east, you are listening to the Oregon First Hunting and Fishing Podcast.
Welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are joining you cold, wet, tired.
Not hungry.
Not hungry. We were hungry because we got to go fishing today with Zory Kirakossian.
Yeah.
We're recording here in Estacada in Zory's home. Him and his wife were gracious enough to welcome us in. Surprisingly, you know, we're stinky, dirty, but here we are sitting at the dining room table recording. Zory, thank you for having us, and thank you for fishing with us today, man. That was awesome.
Yeah,
Yes,
my pleasure.
thank you.
Yeah, it was great. Glad you guys got to come out.
Yeah, it's been great. Before we start off the show, I just have a few announcements I'd like to say. First of all, please follow us and leave a review wherever you're listening right now. I kind of noticed that we don't have very many reviews, and I learned recently that if a show has more reviews, then it recommends it to more people. So help us grow the show. Leave us a review wherever you're listening right now. Just give us, the amount of stars that you think we have earned, and we'd really appreciate that. The other thing I want to point you to is our Facebook group, Salem First Hunting and Fishing Club. If you join that, then you're going to get to learn more about the events that we have to offer. And of course, these events are open to anyone, and you can contact us through whatever channels you're able to contact us to learn about these events. But we really post the most about them and set up the RSVPs and stuff on our Facebook group. So our next event coming up on December 20th is a duck hunt. You excited for that, Gage?
This is probably my favorite event that we hold.
Yep.
It is a fun time. If you got friends, invite them. Love to see you out there.
Yeah, the first time we ever did it, we had 10 guys. And last time we had 15 guys. So if we're on track for 20, then we can make it happen.
Oh, yeah.
But we'd love to know if you're going to come. So please, if you're able to let us know you're going to be there, easiest way to do that is our Facebook group, Salem First Hunting and Fishing Club. We'd love to see you there. In this episode, we're going to talk about Oregon coho wins, tributary salmon and steelhead fishing, the tough life of a guide, and have a conversation with our guest, Zory. So I went to school with Zory in Salem a handful of years ago until life moved him up to Washington to go on staff with Team Challenge, which is now called Adult and Teen Challenge. He is still full-time on staff with them, leading their program they have to offer here in Estacada, but he loves fishing and very recently decided to go public and begin the beginning stages of launching a guide business. His goal is to be able to take people on float trips in the upper tributaries in search of Chinook, coho, and steelhead when that time comes, which is very soon, right? Yep. And he now lives in Estacada with his wife and kids, working for Teen Challenge. So It's pretty exciting stuff, man.
Yeah, it's great, man. I love it. It's a great life, and just love being able to, do what I do, which is helping guys that are in drug and alcohol addiction get sober and, get their lives on track. But then also just, living out here in Estacada, just so much access to, rivers and being in the Pacific Northwest and being able to fish. So just kind of getting to do like two things that I really love to do. So
yeah, it's awesome, man. I love it. I feel the same way about my life. Oftentimes I'll just like realize like, oh man, life is pretty good.
Yeah.
Get to hunt, fish, and work at a job that I love, and man, pretty amazingly blessed. So I'm right there with you.
Sometimes we'll be standing out in the middle of the woods or on the edge of the river like today, and Bryant will turn to me and be like, hey, we have it pretty good, don't we?
Yeah.
And I turn and look at the scenic background. I'm like, yeah, we do. We live in a pretty beautiful place.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's such an important thing, I think, to just take a moment to like express gratitude, for what we have and like the fact of where we live. I just think, I've lived in other states and I've traveled a decent amount, and we have something really special here. So
we truly do.
Yep.
It's absolutely amazing.
And that's why we made the Oregon First Hunting and Fishing Podcast.
Because we love it so much.
So why is the group called Salem First, the
Because
Facebook group?
That's our club that we do our like in-person events with people together, and all of our club events are held in the Salem area because that's where we live.
Okay.
So yeah, anyone from all of Oregon is welcome to travel to Salem for these events.
Okay.
But realistically, you know, it's the club for the Salem area. And we do have a vision of starting more clubs in other places around Oregon, Southwest Washington, and really kind of spreading the love. But, you know, for right now, it's us in Salem. And so, yeah, that's a good point. Anyone from anywhere in Oregon can come join our events. But, you know, they are regionally located in Salem.
Cool. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Giving people a reason to come to Salem.
Yeah.
Because there's not many.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's tons of outdoor opportunities around Salem. I mean, you know, so, I mean, it's great.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
awesome.
that seems to be the case in a lot of Oregon, thankfully.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would go crazy if not. But now we're going to be moving into the icebreakers. So I think I know the answer to the first question, but is it hunting or fishing for you?
Fishing.
Fishing? Yeah,
Yep.
makes sense.
Yep. The rest of the questions follow suit in that.
In that
So
vein,
I'm really glad you didn't say hunting.
Yeah, just throw a major curveball at you.
Hunting.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Well,
deer or elk?
yeah.
Second question: salmon or steelhead?
That's like the dreaded question. I would say steelhead.
Okay. Is it the fishing, or is it the taste of the fish, or the way they fight?
I would just say like the diversity of steelhead fishing. Like, you know, there's always steelhead in the river, and to an extent, there really is always some, you know, salmon for the most part. But I would just say, you know, there's just so many different types of water and so many different kinds of places that you can find steelhead. And you know, they're just the way that they're different from salmon, and how they, you know, they live at multiple, like, you know, spawn cycles, and just the back and forth from salt to the freshwater, and just the rugged kind of nature of what they are, and even just their physical appearance is just magnificent. And their power and their speed and like what they do when you hook them, and I just everything about them, you know, really like, you know. But I do love salmon too, and
of course.
I mean they're wonderful too, and I have a lot to say about salmon. But I would, if I had to pick one, I would say steelhead.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That I would have to agree. Little silver bullets, they're super fun. Third question: spinning or casting reels?
Casting reels, but both of them have their place. You know, I use them both. You know, we took both out on the river today, and they both have their strengths and weaknesses. You know, but if I can, pretty much as long as I'm not in a place where I'm like if I'm in a really small river or creek, even with a lot of overhead and like brush and trees, and I don't have room to really make a cast, then a spinning reel is going to be, you know, more like a better choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking about that today.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I am fairly good with the bait caster. I got like 1 or 2 backlashes today.
Yeah.
Just in full transparency. But I was
not
thinking
bad.
about how, like, you know, I kind of need a bigger swing to really get it out there. But with the spinning, you can kind of just toss it, you know, just like flick it in front of you a little bit. When I tried to do that today, I lost my eggs.
Yeah.
So that's what I quickly learned. That was the first time I'm like, oh, man, dang it, you know? So lesson learned.
Yeah, it does. It requires like you to be able to swing it properly and like release it and kind of have enough room to like, you know, use gravity and like, you know, leverage to kind of fling. Otherwise it causes problems for it.
Especially with the salmon gear. Because like with bass stuff, you know, you could skip a lure across the water and get up under a log. Totally different than like, you know, you're trying to preserve your egg bunch underneath of that bobber, and it's easy to flick it out and feed it to the crawdads, you know. So it's not what we're trying to do.
Or tangle it up or like Yep.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think you guys probably had a little bit easier time with the casting reels on floating the gear down our little float that we were doing, because I was having a heck of a time keeping that line out of the water and not bellied up like you were talking about.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe for the listener to help explain, like, you cast your bobber out, bobber fishing for salmon, and you let the current take it. But if you like play with the line at all, it makes the bobber move and you can't tell if you're getting a nibble, because some of those bites were super soft today.
Yeah.
But like with the spinning reel, it'd be way harder to control the line out
Yeah.
without touching the line.
Yeah, it's a two-handed operation with a spinning reel, because you have to manage like the bail, and you're trying to let line out, and it's just, it's more involved and it's a little more sloppy, but it's totally doable. In some cases, again, like that's the only option or the better option, depending on where you are. But yeah, with having a casting reel, it's one-handed until you're ready to reel in, but you can let line out and you can mend and you can do everything with one hand, and it's really convenient.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Fourth question, bobber or a spinner for fishing for salmon?
For salmon, a bobber. And bait.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I know we were talking about that earlier on the boat. I had that same type of question, and you're a big fan of the bait in general. It just seems to have a higher success rate.
I mean, yeah, I just think, I just catch more fish on salmon using eggs and, shrimp and, tuna belly and tuna, and just I just think that for the most part, generally Chinook are going to be more reactive to a food bite, I think.
Well, we saw that they smell today, right?
Yep.
Hooked up on 3, and they were all on the eggs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Gage did get one strike on the spinner though.
I did.
Unless it was a rock.
Unless it was a rock or a smallmouth or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot you got a pike minnow in the boat.
Oh, I did. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, early in the day, picked up a pike minnow.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. Okay, last question, and maybe we can break this into 2 separate questions. Spring or fall for catching the salmon and then eating the salmon?
I mean, I would say, for eating, spring, and I really do like catching spring salmon, probably more. In terms of ease of catching, fall for salmon, it's easier to catch salmon in the fall.
Okay.
But spring Chinook are the, kind of the prize, really.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Cool.
I think they taste better because they're harder to get. So
yeah, they're harder to get, and they have a higher fat content, and they're just they're like the best tasting salmon. So
awesome.
Sweet.
Good. Well, now after the icebreakers there, we all know Zory so well.
Yes.
And we know the nuggets of wisdom we're going to get on this podcast. So look forward to it. So we're going to replace a segment of the show that we used to call the Outdoors Rewind with a new segment called the Field Report. But that's coming soon, not in this episode, but you can be looking forward to that. Instead, I'm going to talk about the Oregon Sports Pack Slam again, which we've been talking about a lot. So what we're doing is we want to recognize those who fill all 5 of their big game tags for Oregon this hunting season, so 2025. So if you get a turkey, a cougar, a bear, a deer, and an elk, then what's going to happen is we have a application set up online. You can find it on our social medias, or I'm happy to send it to anyone. And the reason why we're doing an application is because we are going to take this a little serious, as much as it's all just for fun. It's cool, we want to recognize people who do this. But we're going to ask for 2 witnesses and photographic evidence of each of these animals. They have to all be taken in this year, 2025. And everyone who submits gets put in for a $500 drawing, brought to you by Dead On Archery, as we heard a few episodes ago. And we have a certificate we want to send you, a t-shirt, and we want to put your name on a plaque in our studio. And so we're hoping that this is something that we'll be able to do every year from now on, depending on how this goes. But the hunting seasons are coming, man. I mean, archery elk's over. So if you didn't get your archery elk, I'm sorry, maybe next year, but maybe you're a rifle elk hunter. So that's still coming up. and it's a good time to get out there, look for those bear, look for those cougar before it's too late. I like to hit the cougars once the snow comes, then you can walk and look for tracks. But that's the Oregon Sports Pack Slam. We're excited to see who we hear from and what happens out there this year.
And if you do get all 5 in the sports pack, man, that's a lot of meat. I hope you got a couple freezers because, man, an elk alone would fill up a chest freezer.
We will accept jerky donations.
Yeah, maybe a roast over.
I can't promise they'll help you in the drawing, but all right. Now it's time to get into the news.
Let's do it.
This news story, it's going to be a quick one because I really want us to get into our conversation with Zory. But I just wanted to bring up something very encouraging that I read recently that, it's not necessarily breaking news, but it's good news, is that Oregon coho runs seem to be on the upswing everywhere, really. I mean, there's some tributaries in the state that coho numbers are still low, but then there's other places in the state where coho runs are really abundant. Like we were talking about how last year past the Willamette Falls, we had a record-breaking run. And this year, the forecasted ocean abundance of Oregon coast natural coho is 289,000 fish, up from 232,000 fish last year, and the largest forecast since 2012. That's a quote from the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife website. And I just thought that it's good sometimes, as much as we oftentimes talk in the news, especially outdoor related things, we're kind of like sounding alarm bells about bad stuff going on, especially in politics and whatever else. But like, this is encouraging. There's been a lot of, efforts to help salmon runs, and we're starting to see some returns on that investment there. One of the things I said about, like, for example, the drawdown of Green Peter, where they killed the kokanee fishery, and the intent was to save the Chinook fishery and to improve their spawning grounds. I haven't seen any hard numbers from that. We just did that last year. We're going to see, but one of my thoughts was like, well, if you're going to take away the kokanee fishing opportunity, then it better be like a 1-to-1 Chinook fishing opportunity. Because I will admit, I like catching Chinook better than I love catching kokanee. As much as catching kokanee is really awesome, and they're a delicious, good-eating fish, it's kind of like, it hurts. But what we're seeing a little bit at a time is that some of these sacrifices are making a difference and helping our salmon, specifically our coho, come around. Like it was like death by 1,000 cuts for salmon. There were so many different things that are and have been hurting them, their returns. And we've been trying to make 1,000 repairs. We are starting to see a difference. One of the questions I wanted to ask you, Zory, in the last few years, have you noticed a difference in salmon abundance? Like boots on the ground, you're fishing, even just recreationally fishing in the last few years. How is this year and last year's, how did that stack up to the year before?
Well, I mean, I can just speak from my personal experience in the last few years, and I can think of like a couple highlights. I mean, you mentioned the counts at the Willamette Falls for coho last year, I think was like 50 or 55,000, which is a record. And so that was great. And so, that definitely, I saw that materialize in, pretty good fishing, for those Willamette River tributaries. And then I know even on like Columbia River tributaries too, it was good. And so that was a real highlight. And then, but I will say that like what was really exciting was not this last summer, but the summer before, the summer steelhead was like the best that it had been in a really long time. And those numbers,
the steelhead, okay.
Yeah, the summer steelhead numbers were the highest they had been in a really long time. And I know Willamette Falls had like, I think like close to 20,000 summer steelhead over, which was like,
okay.
The year before, I want to say it was like, I don't even know, like 1,000 or something. I don't know, something bad. Maybe better than that. It jumped up considerably. So summer of 2024 was really good for summer steelhead and spring Chinook. And I really focus mainly in the tributaries. And so, yeah, I mean, I've definitely seen improvements, and wild fish numbers, have definitely gone up. On certain tributaries and Willamette River tributaries, specifically, where you're able to see dam counts. Those wild winter steelhead numbers are up. So yeah, there's definitely been improvements. I mean, but looking at it in a big term perspective, it's still obviously like way diminished from what it used to be, but there are victories that are happening. And I think we do see that, materialize into sometimes having better, fishing, seasons.
Do you think opportunity is lagging behind the higher numbers, like as far as limitations and regulations? Or have you noticed that they're starting to allow, like, for example, longer seasons, more fish kept, natives kept in different parts of the systems? From your perspective, have you seen that shifting as well?
Well, the last couple of years, there's actually been like reductions in bag limits, like on the coastal tributaries.
Okay.
For salmon. So like last year was reduced, and then this year is also reduced. And in some places, I think even more so this year than last year. And so, that I don't really, I don't have like a real like strong opinion, and I respect and, listen to, people that do really understand like biology and like kind of what's going on. And so, I try to like not make, I don't know, like polarizing statements or just because obviously like we all want more fishing opportunity, and I want, we all want to be able to like, fish more in more places and, be able to harvest fish. But, so I try to kind of stay in my lane and just do what I can to like, be a good steward of like the resources of where I'm at. Yeah. And, try to kind of have a positive outlook on it as much as possible. So, I'm thankful for any opportunity that I get. Do I think sometimes, maybe that it could be different? Sure. I think sometimes maybe there could be, sometimes with the coho numbers, sometimes I wonder like why so many rivers are still closed to wild coho retention when there's so many of them in a lot of our rivers. It seems like they're doing pretty good, but that's what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that was cool for me to see, in which we were on a new to me river today, the stretch we were on specifically, like I've been higher up in the mountains, but to be down lower on this river we were on, and there was Chinook reds everywhere, and these schools of native Chinook.
Tons.
Breeding all over the place.
Yeah, thousands we saw today.
It was like every rapid we went down, there was these reds and Chinook in them, and there'd be like 15, 20 Chinook per red
at least. Yeah,
and it was just really cool because it felt like when I was a kid watching nature documentaries. That's like the stuff you see, but not many people get to see it in person. That's one real special way, as a side note, of the way that you Zory explore the rivers on your raft. And fishing from the raft and being able to go into these places that a drift boat can't even go. Like, we got to see some really cool natural little stuff today. Some really wild areas. Which included seeing thousands of spawning Chinook. And catching a couple that, weren't actually we weren't like targeting fish on the beds. We were just targeting healthy salmon. We were actually avoiding the ones on the beds. But even just to see them was a win. Let alone that we caught some, which is awesome. But just to see the ones spawning, so cool. So cool. But to me, it's like every time I see that, it's like a little bit of glimmer of hope. Like each of those fish theoretically are going to now multiply, and as long as we protect them and nothing crazy happens, then there should be more next year, or I mean in 3 years, or however long it takes for their generation to come back, right? That's kind of the idea of how nature works. So I'm pretty hopeful. But I also don't really have the most educated opinion. I just floated down a river today and saw a bunch of spawning salmon. You know,
Oh, it's gonna be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, it's cool stuff.
Yeah. I know there were so many spawned salmon. I was like looking around. It's like, is there a grizzly out here?
Yeah, I know, right?
It's 'cause we're up in Alaska. You're up on the rapids catching them.
Yeah, man. I have to imagine that like black bear are coming in to feed. And
Guarantee
actually,
it,
we talked
for
to that
sure.
guy. We talked to a guy this morning that like said he saw a bunch of coyotes like in the water.
Yeah.
And it just dawned on me that like they could definitely have been like feeding on spawned out salmon.
Yeah, which is interesting to think about because of salmon poisoning. So like, you know, if a dog, if you brought your dog to the park and he went and licked one of those salmon, like he would die unless you got medical treatment for him.
Yeah, coyotes don't care, man. They're just
yeah. So coyotes must not get the salmon poisoning.
they might, you know.
Maybe they do. Yeah.
The stuff they eat, I'm sure they got an amazing little bacteria system in their stomach.
I have a quick interruption. I did a quick Google search and found that coyotes actually can and do get salmon poisoning. So do wolves, and in very rare cases, bears do. Salmon poisoning is caused by a salmon fluke that's only found in the PNW populations of salmon. And this all reminds me of a conversation I had with Jericho once about hound hunting, where he told me that the dogs encounter less coyotes in rivers with salmon in them, because the coyotes, in his opinion, either avoid the area knowing they could get sick from salmon, or maybe they just die of salmon poisoning, and so there's less coyotes around where there's lots of dead salmon laying around. Very interesting stuff. Back to the show.
My dog, when I was a kid, got salmon poisoning from steelhead blood.
Oh,
Can't
wow.
they get it from just licking the fish too? Like they don't have to take a bite out of it.
They can get it from just drinking the water.
Yeah, so in the
wow.
water. Yeah.
But like we cleaned some steelhead that we caught, and the blood was in the grass, and we just kind of like rinsed it out. We're like, you know, we thought of it, so we bagged all the guts. We told the dog to stay away. Then we kind of rinsed the grass out, but somehow she must have come and licked the grass or something.
Wow.
And
Try
she's
like, this smells interesting. I'm gonna lick this. Yeah.
Then she gets deathly ill,
Oh,
and so we
geez.
took her to the vet, and they fixed her up. They were able to save her, but you know, it's
Wow.
like that's so. When you say the guy said there was a bunch of coyotes down there at the park we were fishing at, you know, and it's like, well, those coyotes got to be eating dead salmon. Unless they know better,
I'm sure bears are going down there. I mean, probably cats
Raccoons.
too. Yeah. I mean, everybody probably.
yeah.
Such a food source, man. Yeah, we saw a bunch of dead ones. Birds.
Yeah.
Man, you know that big bald eagle we saw today? Imagine if we saw him swoop down and grab a big spawner. He was probably stuffed.
They try.
You don't think they can do it?
Well, I mean, I've seen them try and fail. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I feel like it'd be so easy for them because they catch fish all day.
They probably catch. They need to seek out the jacks.
Yeah.
Probably handle the jacks.
Well, zombied out jacks.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, that does it for our news coverage. In the field reporting from the Oregon Tributary System. Let's get into our conversation with Zory Kirakossian. Well, we start this conversation off the same way every time, and it's kind of a hard one to answer. What is your favorite fishing story or outdoor experience?
Wow.
That's usually the response we get.
Sometimes I warn the guests, sometimes I don't.
I didn't get warned.
No, you
we
didn't
talked
get
about
warned.
we talked for a while about
Yeah.
what we were going to talk about, but that didn't get brought up. I think I would say generally my favorite fishing experience is where I learned how to fish for steelhead, which is at a friend's house of mine on the Oregon coast on a coastal river. And he has private property, and he taught me how to catch, steelhead and salmon. And that's where I caught my first steelhead. And so just any time I can be there, with him, spending time together fishing. And, I'm just so thankful for that. And, I think so that, I guess it's a little bit more general of an answer, not like a specific experience, like where I, caught like 20 fish or something, but it's just when I can be there at that cabin, with my friend Jimmy and fishing and, just having a really good time. And then so that has like a real special place in my heart, in my, in terms of like my fishing experience and journey. So
I love that.
That's super
I owe a
cool.
lot to those days and from what I learned. And
Yeah.
It's a good friend.
Yeah, it is a good friend. I call him my fishing dad. So yeah,
That's good. Man.
It's your sensei.
So
Yeah.
what'd you catch your first steelhead on?
on a 14 millimeter cerise bead.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah,
So were you bobber dogging?
I was bobber dogging. Yeah.
Bobber
For your
dogging.
first steelhead,
Yeah.
you did one of the hardest methods.
Yeah, I mean, and it's kind of a little bit unconventional too. Like, I mean, most people think of bobber dogging, they think of doing that from a boat, but you can do it from the bank.
Oh, okay.
And so I was doing that from the bank, and it was after a nice rain, and the water was perfect green steelhead water, and I mean, and I had never hooked a steelhead, and like you're standing in one spot, and like I let this bobber go down, like, and it was like way too far down, like I shouldn't have let it go that far down.
Yeah.
And I saw it, drop, and so I just reeled in as fast as I could, and then that
a
I had my
fish on the
first
end of
steelhead
it.
on, and like, thank God I somehow landed it,
Yeah.
but like typically when you're bobber dogging and you like catch a fish and it's way down river from you, like the angle, it's like the hookup, like the land ratio is terrible. Like a lot of times you're not going to land the fish like on a bead, especially when it's way down river on a bobber dogging setup. And so, but I landed it, and that was my first steelhead.
And they fight
Wow.
like nuts, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Jumping out of the water like a tiny little trout, but it's like a 10-pound
Yeah.
steelhead.
Yeah.
Fighting.
Yep.
Can
ahead.
you describe bobber dogging for our listeners?
Yeah, so bobber dogging is a method that allows you to fish your gear on the bottom of the river. And, they call it bobber dogging because it's kind of like, you're kind of like walking a bobber, I think that's why they call it that, bobber dogging, like you're kind of walking the
a
dog. Yeah, because you're moving along in a boat next to this bobber, and you're just holding it, and it's kind of like you have a leash in your hand. But it's a float that is basically just been like, imagine a regular bobber, but like just cut off in the middle. So the bottom is flat.
Oh.
And
I didn't know that.
Like, and they make them this way where like the bottom is flat and then it's rounded at the top instead of like, a torpedo shape, like a regular bobber.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Oh.
I've never known what they were for.
Yeah, that's a bobber dogging float. And so that thing, you just purposely, like, how when we were setting our depths today when we were float fishing eggs, like you would just purposely run your bobber stop up high so that like all your gear hits the ground.
Yeah.
And then your bobber points downstream and it's floating downstream. And that's how you're bobber dogging, because all your gear is dragging on the bottom. And then the water is pushing against the flat part of the bobber and like pushing all the
pulling
stuff along. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Man.
Yeah. So
okay.
that's how bobber dogging works. And, you have your weight and then, your leader to whatever you have down there, bead or bait or whatever. Yeah.
So it's just in short, it is using a bobber to intentionally drag your gear on the bottom of the river.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's
So,
like, I mean,
wow.
it's similar. It's,
Sounds like you go through a lot of hooks and weights that way.
yeah, you can, if you have like the proper like weight, that's really important. And that'll avoid, if you're too heavy, then you're not moving properly and it'll keep pulling the bobber down. So then you need to lighten up. So it's just figuring out the right weight to put down there, the right amount of weight to put down there, like depending on the current and the flow and like how deep you're trying to bobber dog. So there's like there's technique to it, in terms of knowing like what to do and when to use it and that kind of thing. Yeah.
So the whole idea about bobber dogging is to get that presentation in the face of that, most likely a steelhead, but other salmonoid species too.
You can bobber dog for salmon too.
Yeah.
But it's most commonly like a steelhead fishing thing. Yeah. Technique.
Yeah. Which is funny because you would think that steelhead would be more of on the aggression bite spectrum, I would think. And this seems to be more of like, oh, it's in my face, I'm just going to eat it really quick.
Especially if you're doing a bead, you're trying to imitate eggs, right?
Yeah, imitate, and that's primarily, you're imitating like a single egg or a cluster of egg or just something edible that's, looks different than what's in the water, like maybe or catches their eye and they want to eat it,
Yeah. Man.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, that's cool. So you love tributary fishing.
Yeah.
What's so special about tributary fishing compared to big river fishing?
I like the hands-on experience of tributary fishing. You know, I like being involved in what I'm doing. So, you know, like today you guys were casting and reeling, you know, and you were doing something, like you were involved in like the process of like catching your fish, you know?
Yeah.
And that's like a huge reason why I like it. I also like where you are. It's just beautiful to be in like river systems and, you know, smaller river systems. I still think that like, you know, the Columbia River and the Willamette like are beautiful places too. But I really like being in smaller rivers and going through rapids, and I like being in a raft, and it just feels, you know, like an exciting adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll say the tributaries are undeniably more wild because there's no big cities on them.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Oh yeah.
the Willamette's got a bunch of cities on it. The Columbia has Portland
Yeah.
and Vancouver, and then, you know, all these other Longview and stuff like that.
Ridgefield and Astoria.
No, and I'm not like, I have nothing against like fishing in the big water, and I do that, and I'll go and fish with my friends and stuff who do that, and sometimes that's like the best option too, you know, like if you really want to, you know, catch fish sometimes, like the tributary is just not the best place to do it depending on the time of year and the conditions.
Yeah.
You know, but I get kind of, it's just a little more boring to like, you know, sit at a seat and like, you know, wait for your like rod to go off and then kind of pick it up and, you know, just, you know, yeah, kind of just rip the fish in. And I like the tributary because there's so many different ways to do it. And learning how to kind of read the water, and yeah, there's a lot to it, you know. And I don't want to like minimize like the complexity of big water fishing, because there's a lot of like technique and knowledge and stuff that goes into that too. But I just prefer the tributary.
Yeah, all I know is that if you handed me a rod and sent me out to either, I'd probably not catch anything. So
Probably. We have never caught anything.
yeah. So thank you for getting me on fish today, Zory. That was awesome.
Yeah. No, I was curious about how you pick the tributary rivers to fish. Like, where is it because they're proximity to your home, where you're at, or those are the ones you're most successful in?
Yeah, no, those are good questions. So how I pick a river to fish is definitely like, do I know the river? That's a big part of it. You know, and so the rivers that I know and I have experience on are likely going to be the ones that like I tend to gravitate towards more.
Yeah.
And then also time of year and then conditions, you know, tributary fishing, you know, in the fall and in the winter and in the spring, really it's like, you know, rain makes such a big difference in like, you know, how successful you can be.
Yeah.
And like how challenging it will be, you know, so rain really plays into that. And then the size of the river. So, you know, on a larger tributary, after heavy rain, it may take, you know, sometimes up to like 5 days to a week to actually like really become fishable again.
Wow.
And so like I may have to, you know, move to a smaller tributary that has a faster drainage, you know, and fish on that river, because that river will become fishable faster. And so sometimes that plays into it. And then certain, you know, rivers have different run timings of kind of like, you know, when is the best optimal time, you know, for whatever species that you're going for, or like run timing, you know, that you're going for. And so that plays into it. And, you know, yeah, proximity and yeah, all those things kind of play into how I pick where I'm going to go.
Yeah.
That's a lot of details.
Yeah.
I was expecting it to be like, it's close to my house.
Yeah.
Or I haven't been there yet, want to try it out. I wasn't expecting that it you had such a science behind it, but everything you said made a lot of sense,
Yeah.
especially the drainage side of it. And being able to, because like, there's a lot of times I see, I live on the Willamette. I look at the Willamette a lot.
Yeah.
I grew up on the Yamhill.
Yep.
A lot of times in the winter, those rivers are just coursing chocolate milk, and that's not, is that even fishable when especially a little river is at that flood stage?
I don't want to be on it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fishable. Like, I mean, I've caught fish in mud,
Really?
water.
Wow.
Yeah. It's
Really?
just really hard,
Can you give like a story? I'd love to hear like how that went down one time.
Yeah. I mean, I like, a couple falls ago, I was shocked. Like, I was at my buddy's house out on the coast, and like, it was just, the river was absolutely
So the
blown
bottom
out.
of the drainage,
Just-
right,
just
the coast.
Yeah, just chocolate, I mean, this was a direct river, right, that flows right into the ocean.
Yeah.
But it was just completely blown out. And I just decided, like, I was experimenting with a drift fishing setup. And, like, I just set up this drift fishing setup and with a little piece of pink yarn. And,
Wow.
like, went out there and I'm like, I just want to see, like, how this reel works. I was like basically kind of like testing the reel and like to see the weight of the, so that when it cleared up, then I was going to, drift fish with the setup. And like, so I threw it out and, started to reel it back in and, boom, hooked a salmon. Like,
Wow.
That's crazy.
That's awesome,
Yeah.
dude.
That's so cool.
and I couldn't believe it, because it was just such bad water, and like my buddies are inside, and then like, I'm yelling like, hey, and they come like running out, and they were like kind of giving me a hard time, like, oh, you're wasting your time. And,
Yeah.
but I was so excited to fish that I'm like, I'm just going to tinker with this reel. And then,
Yeah.
so I hooked one, and then like I cast it again and hooked another one.
No
And
way.
so like, cause fish,
What?
fish
That's
move
cool, dude.
when the rivers are really like blown up. That's like, they'll start to take off, and they make a lot of ground up, cause they can, they travel along the banks, like when the water's really blown up and blown out.
Okay.
And
That's a huge tip you just gave right there.
Oh
yeah. And so I was just throwing it like right. I mean, they'll be
that's
like,
going to be downloaded into my brain
Yeah.
forever. What you
Yeah.
just said.
yeah, they're gonna. That's where they are, So if you're in high water, and it's really or brown water, especially, I mean, they're literally gonna be sometimes like a foot in front of you, like right off the bank.
Wow.
Okay.
So stand there with a net.
Yeah.
Hey, you're not that kind of native, Gage.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's good. So the last few years, you've gotten really serious about your fishing, and really learned a ton. You got the raft with the frame in it, seats 3. We were wet from the rain, but we were not wet. It was a great, wonderful experience. What's making you want to step into the guiding world?
I mean, so the name of my business is Be Wild Fishing, and I think that human beings, were created to be in the wild and to, hunt and fish and, live off the land. And I think that there's something like wired into our DNA still. I think that's not how the majority of people live. I live in the suburbs. I mean, I'm out in Estacada, but, I don't like farm or anything like that. But like, I love being outside, and I love going on outdoor adventures, and I like fishing, and there's just something about it, like that pursuit of that fish. And it like just turns on this like primal kind of like hyper focus, and like, you know what I mean? Like how you can just pull up to, a spot like we did today, and we're like, okay, we're going to fish for 15 minutes. And then like, 45 minutes and hours goes by, and because we're all just, focused on it. And, man, I think we were designed to be in the wild, and to be wild, and to hunt and fish and provide. And so, going on fishing trips is kind of like a way to stay connected to that part of like our humanness, like, and to our past, and to our history. And, as people who used to have to do that to survive, and now we just buy stuff like at a grocery store or whatever. But, I just think it's healthy, and like, I like doing it. So, and I want to share that to answer your question is like, I want to share that experience with other people and help them, get out of their regular routine and be wild. And
Yeah. I thought that you had already started the guiding. So part of the questions I was going to ask was like, how does it feel different to take a stranger fishing versus, your friends and family, which Gage was a stranger.
I'm a
this
stranger.
morning.
Yeah. Yeah. How was it?
it was awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, today was kind of a taste into that, right?
Yeah.
Because I knew you from school, not super well. You had never met Gage before, and just to be clear, for all like legal reasons, we did not pay for a fishing trip or anything. Like Zory has not started guiding yet, so don't anyone
going out
get,
as friends.
Don't get concerned.
Yeah.
He took us out as friends, but you also you showed us, or at least me, a new type of fishing that I didn't know. You got us on fish. You kept us safe. You got to. So how does it feel? Do you think you can do it?
Yeah, I love it, man. It's great. I really enjoyed like just seeing your guys's, enjoyment of being out there and like, showing you the salmon and showing you how to do it and like, and thank God we caught a fish. We caught multiple fish and it was just really cool to see you guys get to experience that and I look forward to being able to share that more with people.
Yeah. As a non-paying friend who was going just to hang out with you and then record a podcast afterward, you did great.
Thanks.
It was but I wouldn't have been upset even if we didn't catch anything.
Yeah.
Because it was just the experience of floating down that little river is cool and it's beautiful. But the bonus is we got fish in the boat.
It is a bonus. Yeah. And I think, that is like, that's a nerve-wracking part of it, is like when I do start taking people, who are paying money to be out there, and catch fish, that there is a lot of, I think pressure to that. And so that'll be interesting to kind of to navigate. But
yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think, and that's a perfect transition to an important conversation to have about the guide life is how can you be a guide and protect your marriage and protect your family? And it's kind of hard to talk about it as a non-guide, For me, I've been on guided trips. Gage has been on several guided trips, and it just seems like there's sort of this heaviness in the industry, whether it's commercial fishing or guided fishing or even just meeting people out on the water. Just like in every other thing in life, there's like happy people. There's people who are great to get along with, but it feels like there's maybe a disproportionately high number of people who are really hurting, and within the fishing community, sure, but within the guide industry, especially in the Pacific Northwest, which, not surprisingly, the PNW is the capital of depression in the United States. So maybe there's something to that. Maybe it's not just how it is in the guide world and in the fishing world, but it's just how it is in the PNW. What's your guys' thoughts on that as I kind of bring that out?
Well, just from personal experience, meeting and talking with different people, like, I work in a corporate environment, so I talk with people who go on guided trips often, and I ask who they go with, and they always like, yeah, I go with, so-and-so and someone I don't know, a guide that I don't know, and they're like, yeah, but he's rough around the edges. That's kind of like the general consensus with guides. They're rough around the edges. I've always been curious why, because like Brian said, we're not guides. Like Brian and I, we're not guides. And it seems like the dream job. Like if you're a hunting guide, you get to go out in the woods and you hunt these beautiful animals. Or if you're a fishing guide, you get to go out in the water and have an amazing boat and have all this cool stuff. But then you dig deeper. Just the surface level. Just my take is, yes, it's your dream. It's something you're super passionate about. It becomes a job. It's a grind. Like what you.
There's immense pressure
to get your clients on game, essentially, and that could really leave a bad taste in your mouth for the long term, which is disappointing because if you go back to the start of it for each individual guide, I guarantee you it was they're 13 years old fishing with their dad. They catch their first fish, and that's like, it's this beautiful little start of a story and ends with this like having a bad taste in your mouth, and it can lead to, you know, divorce and lost time with kids. And there's some,
I think that might be another side of it, is the time away from home.
Yeah.
But like and I don't even know how to say this without the reward of like enjoying fishing, you know? When the fishing becomes the job and you're just like stressed out and grinding every day trying to get clients on fish or whatever it is, you know, and you're spending all this time away from your family, if you have a family, it just seems like a double-edged sword where it's like hurting on both sides.
Because what do they do on the weekends when they have time off or in the off season? Are you going to go fish more? Are you going to go hunt more?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think, like, you know, the thing that you look forward to, and that is maybe like a source of therapy and a source of like relief and enjoyment, you know, becomes, you know, maybe not that, you know, it's like, now it's, you know, it's pressure and it's long hours. You know, you mentioned like family and stuff. I mean, and time, and how much time it takes. A lot of time to take people out fishing. Like, it's really long, like it's really long hours, like a regular job, you know, where you come and you clock in at like 8 and you leave at 5, like, and then you're done. Like, you know, that isn't really how it is when you're preparing to like take somebody fishing. So it's like the night before, like you may have like 2 or 3 hours of prep, like, or more, like depending on what you're doing, you know, like before, you know, we met this morning at 6, but I spent like 3 hours. I got off my job, you know, in the afternoon at like 4, and I was prepping until like 6:30.
Wow.
You know, for today. And then, you know, we get up and like, you know, go at 6 a.m. and then we're off the water at like, you know, we got the boat off at 3 and like we didn't get home until like 4:30.
Yeah.
You know,
and all 3 of us wives are a little annoyed because we said we are going to fish until noon, and here we are, you know.
And like right now, if I wasn't doing the podcast, like I'd be taking everything out of the boat. Like everything is still, I have to go do all that. And that's like another, like, you know, 2 hours, an hour, maybe like an hour and a half to like clean everything up and put everything away.
Yeah.
And, you know, so it is a lot. Like even when you're home, you're like still kind of preparing stuff and fixing things. And like, you know, and then if you're doing that like multiple days in a row, like, you know, you might not be done until like 8, 9 o'clock by the time you get home. And so, it could just be like insanely time consuming. Yeah. And so I think that can be a real like detriment, you know. I mean, I think you do if in terms of marriage and like raising kids, like, you know, there's only so much you can be gone like before that starts to really have like some pretty negative impacts, I think, on your family. And, you know, how do I manage that? I think, you know, for me, like, is keeping a strong relationship with God is a really important thing for me. And I'm a man of faith. And, you know, I know we're going to talk a little bit about like my story and my past, but that's how I kind of keep priorities straight. And I don't fish full time, you know, so I don't want to, you know, if I had to do that 5 days a week or 6 days a week, like, you know, that's hard. But if that's your only source of income and, you know, and it's just long hours, there's no way around it. So I don't know, you know, I don't really have an answer. But what I do see though, a lot of times, like being out on the river and like having friends in the industry and like just being immersed in fishing, there are a lot of like grumpy, unhappy, like people out on the water. And that's sad, you know, it's like, why are we like, why, you know, I've seen people like get in fights and like yell at each other and cuss at each other. And I've been on guided trips where like guides were really grumpy and like really short, you know, with us and the customers. And I think there's a lot of addiction, like in the like sporting industry, like, you know, a lot of alcoholism, you know, and that's been my experience of just, you know, people I've known and seen. And
then you kind of, it becomes a question of like the chicken or the egg, you know, what comes first, the like depression and substance or the guiding? You know?
Yeah.
Did the guiding cause that pain, or was it there and they tried to have this dream job to solve it, but then ultimately there was like a deeper spiritual inward reality that was getting stifled and ignored, that they and okay, so now we're speaking plainly from our perspective.
Yeah.
And what we see with anybody is when you try to substitute a transformative relationship with Jesus. Okay, that's what we need. You try to substitute that for anything, whether it be substance, whether it be career, whether it be no matter what it is, you come up short. We can't speak for every person's individual situation.
Yeah.
But, this is just a human nature thing in general. Like, to lay off the guides,
Yeah.
just human nature in general. Like, if you try to make your career the most important thing about your life, then you're going to come up short. Either at some point during the career when you get burnt out, or you get fired, or you retire,
Yeah.
Like there's so many things
Right.
like why jobs are temporary and someday you won't be able to do it anymore. What's your true purpose?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think that's like kind of the conundrum of like what we're talking about is like, we're all out here doing something that's incredible. Like we're fishing and we're in the outdoors and like we have this incredible resource, but like why aren't more people like noticeably like happy and content doing what they're doing? And it's because like, all of these, like, this is a wonderful thing and fishing is amazing and the outdoors are incredible and but like at the end of the day, like that isn't enough to satisfy us. And I think that's kind of the what it boils down to, and this happens everywhere in every profession and every walk of life, is like people are trying to find meaning and purpose and satisfaction, and it just seems like, well, it should be obvious, like if you're fishing all the time you should have meaning and purpose and be satisfied. But that's not the case. For a lot of people, because it doesn't actually like, you're partaking of like this beautiful creation, but like you in a sense are, if you don't have like a relationship with God in your life, I think always going to be a hole. And I don't want to like, preach or anything. And I don't think I'm like, none of us think that like we're better off than anybody else. It's just like, or better than anyone else. It's not about that. It's just like an interesting kind of question, why are people like kind of unhappy a lot of times, like out on the water?
Yeah. As you're talking, I'm thinking about it from this perspective. When you're out on the water fishing, like let's say someone secular doesn't have a relationship with Christ, there's going to be bad days out on the water. Like you're not going to, quote unquote bad days, right? You're not going to catch fish. Yeah. It's going to be pouring down rain. It's going to be windy. You're not going to catch any fish. Maybe the water's...
You break your favorite rod.
Dude, I've been so mad on the water. Oh yeah.
Yeah. The water's chocolate milk and you're not catching fish, because that's usually the norm.
Not a foot off the bank.
Yeah, not a foot off the bank, right? But, I don't think there's a bad day when you follow Christ. Mm. We were out on the boat today, and I think this was even before we caught a fish, and we were just like, I know I was in my head, and we kind of said this out loud. It's like, wow, we're in God's creation. We see these amazing fish swimming, like, zombie fish. They're kind of nasty, but they're awesome to see swimming throughout the water. And we're looking around at these big rock walls surrounding us, and it's like, oh my goodness, like we are in the middle of God's creation. This feels natural. This feels right. We feel at peace.
There's something in what we're talking about that is a little bit of a heart check for me, because so much when I'm communicating about what it means to be a human, I talk about how God created us, how he created this earth for us as our habitat, that we have a responsibility to take care of it, but you can't end there. And I think there's a danger in that, because the creation becomes to when the creation is all encompassing of your purpose as an individual, because what that leads to is sort of this empty pursuit of God that ends with nature alone.
Right.
There's so many people in the world who, believe in a God that they have sensed through nature, and that's kind of the extent of it. Like, yeah, he's out there. I don't know if he actually does anything, or I don't even know if to call him a he or an it or the universe. But then like you still feel this sense of purpose, and like we belong in nature. Like, it's undeniable. Like what you said earlier about, we're made to be wild. Like, there's a part of our DNA as human beings that's in there. Mm-hmm. And then there's this what we believe about how, the reason God created us and where he created us and how he created us, and this earth that we live in now that we call home, that we just feel alive when we're in it. But that's not the end of it. There's like so much more to our purpose and our being that goes deeper than that. And so these moments when we're floating down the river and I'm like, we're here, we're out here,
We're really out here.
we're in God's creation. Now this is epic, like it's just like, this is awesome. We're loving it. And I feel so fulfilled and alive in that, but it's not like permanent, It's as much as it goes beyond me, it's older than me, and it's gonna outlive me unless Jesus comes back, or but what I'm saying is that our purpose is involved in that, and it recharges us, but it goes much deeper than that.
Yeah, the problem is when people like worship the creation instead of the creator. And I think that's like where the emptiness comes, and it becomes like, yeah, everything you just said, I agree with, like it is beautiful and it's wonderful to partake in and to be a part of, and it's a blessing, and it's like, we should be grateful and thankful and like really enjoy it. That doesn't mean we're not going to have bad days or like, even be upset out on the water sometimes.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like there's actually something bigger than like all of creation is really just a sign pointing to the creator who is, able to actually fully satisfy and, provide everything that we need, for us.
Then there's this situation that happens when you are trying to find your purpose in the wrong places, and all you're encountered with is pain, or life just sucks and you go through hardships, and then you turn to substances for that healing or for that numbness. It doesn't lead to anywhere good. It just leads to eventual emptiness and pain. Zory, you have a pretty powerful testimony. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you're comfortable sharing that.
Yeah.
Any part of your story into where you are now. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. And I think, I think it's a good segue too, of just like what we're talking about is, there is like, there's addiction and alcoholism everywhere. But again, going back to that, just seems like if being out in the wild and like doing this as a job, like, but yet there's still this sense of unhappiness and unfulfillment, and there is a lot of alcoholism and addiction. I come out of a past of addiction. I started using drugs at a really young age. I was about 14. The first time I started experimenting with prescription pain medication, 14 and 15. And from there, I just continued to continue abusing those drugs. And again, like kind of what we were talking about is like trying to be satisfied, trying to fill this void in my life and in my heart. And, and trying to kind of like forget about and escape the pain. And so maybe that's what like, maybe sometimes fishing may be like an escape for some people to like kind of get outside of reality. So I think maybe that ties into it too.
Absolutely.
So I've always been kind of trying to like escape and go to some like other reality, like, whether that's in my imagination or my mind or, drugs or like video games or like something, or music, like even at times, and it's like, why is that? What am I trying to escape, or what feels so disconnected in me that like I need some kind of I need some outside, I need to put something in my body or view something or partake in something to make me feel whole. But that's what I did, and I didn't know God, and so I used drugs to make me feel better, and I really liked it, and that worked for a really long time, until it didn't, and even in like my early teen years, or I guess my late teens, is like when I did start fishing, and I started like bass fishing and stuff like that, and just going to the banks of the Willamette, and I would do that high.
Yeah.
And I did like it, and I even in my addiction, I still felt like that being out there still made me feel more alive and like more human in my addiction. But I ended up getting addicted to heroin, and became like estranged from my family. I have good parents and a really good family, and and I was raised in a middle class home in America, in Oregon, and and so that's an amazing thing. But drugs kind of tried to steal all that away, and did really for a time steal all that away. And I was completely alone eventually, and homeless, and I lived in my car and hotel rooms and trap houses, and I sold heroin, and I did heroin all day, and did meth too, but it's primarily, heroin was what I was mainly addicted to, and that dominated my life, and for a long time, until I was sick of it.
Yeah.
And so, at that point, I decided to make a change in my life, and I had tried a lot of different methods to try to get clean and change my life, and nothing really worked, but I think ultimately, like at the end of it, it was like I just wasn't ready to like do the hard work that it was going to take to get off of heroin and get sober.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's more of how I kind of found God, but feel free to like interrupt or ask any questions that you might have up to this point.
No, thank you.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Praise God. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Man, especially, it's like exactly what we're talking about. Like, it's just a more extreme vice, but like so much of what people are doing on the water is trying to escape what's hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so what was the moment when you kind of realized you didn't need to escape anymore, that you could turn to the Lord?
Yeah, well, I mean, I had the realization that like I was either going to go to prison or die. And I was really afraid that I was going to go to prison, and because selling heroin, that's probably something that can happen to you. And also I was afraid of dying too, and I remember I was sitting in my car at the parking lot of Tiger Cinema. It's not there anymore. But I would sit in that parking lot sometimes and just kind of hang out, because it was normal for cars to be in there, and like, it wouldn't really like draw attention to yourself being in, and it's an active parking lot, So anyways, that's where I was, and I was watching families walk in and out of the cinema to go into like the movie, and like moms and dads with their kids, and husbands and wives and stuff like that, and like people looked happy, and like I realized that I was like, a few miles away from home, from my family, and I might as well have been like on the other side of the world.
Wow.
Because I was alone and separated, and it was all really because of like my choices, and I just remember praying. I remember I just decided to pray, and I just said, I said, God, if you help me, if you save me from going to prison and help me get clean, then I will follow you for the rest of my life.
Wow.
And I prayed that prayer.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I remember I started to cry, and like I felt emotions that I hadn't felt in a really long time.
Wow.
Or maybe ever. And it kind of broke through like the trance of the drugs, and I felt emotion, and
man,
and then I felt like this sense of like willingness and awareness of God, and like that he was with me in that car, and like that it was going to be hell, but that like I was ready to stop, and I was ready to like do what it took to get off of that drug, and And like, I was just like, from that moment, really, I just kind of became like a man on a mission to like change.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man,
And God like helped me every step of the way, really.
that's amazing.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing.
And where are you now?
Yeah, so I work for a ministry called Adult and Teen Challenge, and it's a Christian drug and alcohol recovery program, and it's located in Estacada. Well, it's all over, but the campus that I work for and is in Estacada, and it's a men's facility for ages 18 and up.
Yeah.
And so I live out here in Estacada and right by the river and right by the campus, you know, and we have, you know, a 40-bed facility for men who, you know, are like I used to be, you know, and who are looking for the same thing that I was looking for. And, you know, we talk a lot. We have a lot of these kind of conversations about like, what does it mean to be fulfilled? And like, you know, all that stuff, like on a regular basis, is trying to teach guys in hardcore addiction and alcoholism, you know, how to find like fulfillment in their relationship with God, and you know, and to learn how to like enjoy life, and to, you know, start having new hobbies and do stuff. And so I get to take those guys out fishing, something I really enjoy doing from time to time. Yeah, man. They always ask me, you know, like, what'd you catch this weekend? You know, like when I come in, because they don't have access to like iPhones, and like they don't have any media or anything. They're like really kind of closed off from all that. And so like I show them pictures and videos and, you know, what I'm doing fishing and stuff like that.
That's
and
awesome.
They're stoked on it. So
Great.
that's what I do now. So yeah. And I've been, in October, actually this month was 10 years. Since my old life. So
wow. And you have a wife,
two kids, a wife, a home. Yeah.
Wow.
Man.
Yeah. And I have hard days, but I am fulfilled.
Yeah. It's amazing.
And I have a purpose.
Thank you.
If you could speak directly to two type of people. One, the guys who just love to fish, but they really use it as an escape from everyday life, sort of like a weak drug. And then the guides who are just in the middle of stress for work, but also families hurting or gone, and they're turning toward those substances.
Well, I mean, I would say that there's hope, you know? I mean, for both, I would just address both of those people, both of those categories, and say that there's hope, and there's a way to be completely fulfilled and satisfied, and you can experience like the joy of worshiping the Creator and not just the creation. You can be fulfilled, you can be satisfied, and God is good, and it doesn't mean like all your problems go away. And you know, and it wasn't like after that prayer, by the way, that like I never wanted to use heroin again. Like, I mean, it was years of like labor and like toiling and like, you know, grinding and praying and like just retraining my mind and learning to follow God and to, you know, how to live a new life. But there's hope, man, for anybody that's struggling with substance, or just discontentment or depression or anger or whatever it is, man. Like, there's hope in a relationship with Christ.
I love it.
That's amazing.
This conversation went in a wonderful direction.
Yes.
Thank you, Zory, for sharing all that, man.
Yeah, my pleasure. So, I mean, above anything else, like, you know, above Be Wild, above, you know, like, you know, salmon and steelhead and like all the stuff that we obsess over and, you know, spend like way too much time thinking about sometimes. Like that's really what is like the most important. And I just appreciate you bringing up the subject of family and marriage and like how do we stay healthy? Like how do industry people stay, you know, healthy and whole? And I mean, it's just like a cool topic. I don't think I've really ever heard any. Like I listen to quite a bit of content, you know, in terms of that are related to this topic, and you know, I haven't heard a lot of conversation about what we're talking about this subject, this topic.
Kind of the ugly side of the life, right?
Yeah.
It's not glamorous.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of humility for anyone to talk about it, you know. So whenever I do have those conversations, I'm always just honored that anyone would be willing to share anything, you know, because it's like. It's deep down inside, it's dark, it's painful.
Yeah.
So, when someone finally comes to that moment to share the truth of what they're feeling, what they're going through, it's like, that's an important moment, not to be taken lightly.
And I think from our perspective, not being guides, of course, it's like we want to navigate this conversation very carefully. We don't want to be downplaying people's feelings, but like, oh, why are you sad? You're a guide. You're on the water every day, or stuff like that.
That's not at all what we're thinking.
Not at all. It's just kind of like a group of people that we've noticed. We can see that they're hurting and they're turning away from what our truth, the truth in Christ, essentially, and we want to help steward those people to Him. I think that's what we're called to do.
Yeah. So the next time you go on a guided trip, share the gospel with your guide.
Yeah. Especially if you're feeling extra grumpy. Yeah.
Well, do you guys have any closing thoughts before we wrap this thing up?
I mean, I could talk about fishing all day long.
Yep. Always could. Yep. Zory, let's get you some customers. When can people start filling up your schedule? When are you going to be, where can they learn more about Be Wild Fishing? Tell us what to do.
Yeah, so Be Wild Fishing on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. You can see our social media stuff there. My wife runs the social media, so but if you send messages and stuff directly to the social media pages, then that'll get to me. And then we have a website. It's bewildfishing.com, and there's all kinds of information there on how to book trips. And again, if you're interested really in like a hands-on experience and a learning experience, that's really kind of like what I'm going for, is to kind of teach you how to fish in the river, with the rod in your hand, learning how to do it and learning the techniques and, catching the fish yourself. That's what I would love to do, and take you out and show you how to do and help you experience the wild and be wild. So I'm not booking any trips until January 1st. So in January 1st, after January 1st, it's open, and that'll be starting off with winter steelhead. And,
awesome.
Yeah. And then just going out from there, year round. So
great.
Yeah.
Well, check them out, people.
Yeah. I want to say, from someone who has not done this type of fishing, maybe just a little, a review here after we just went out.
All right.
This type of fishing, for anybody who has not done it, is absolutely amazing. You're in what exactly is the boat called? Like
a raft.
It's a raft. Okay. Yeah. You're sitting in a raft. You're going down these smaller river systems in some of the coolest environments you can imagine. And Zory really is taking the time to teach you how to fish these specific setups. And by the end of it, you will feel confident and competent in that type of fishing, which I can promise you, and I'm not speaking towards any other guides, there's different types of fishing for salmon and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But that's not always the case. So a lot of times they might be a little reluctant to tell you certain information, but not with Zory. It's amazing. He's gracious. He is patient with you. I know I got my line wrapped up more than my fair share of times, and you're very patient with me, so I really appreciate it. So if you're interested in something like this, and I cannot recommend it enough, and these types of systems is probably one of my favorite experiences out on the water. It's awesome. So go check it out.
He even shared his secret ingredient for his brine with us.
Ooh, yes.
Waiter water.
The
egg cure. Yeah.
The stinkier, the better.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, this has been an awesome conversation. Thank you, Zory, for your time. That does it. I'm Bryant.
This is Gage.
And I'm Zory.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks.